Hi guys, we are back with Riding Side Saddle. Lisa
and Tammy
and
Catherine.
She's back.
She's back.
We're talking more about intuition. There are so many aspects of intuition that are just really important to understand. I think, if you are starting the journey to be able to make the space to listen to what's happening within your body, as Catherine had talked about in one of our last episodes, that is a skill and a talent, perhaps, that oftentimes throughout life has been really buried for lots of people. And being able to really start taking the first shovel loads off of that skill or talent or innate gift, really.
Mm-hmm. I like it more gift.
Better word.
Talent feels to me like some people have that and some people don't.
Right.
Intuition, everybody has it. It's a gift.
Thank you for that.
That everyone has.
And that, I think, is really what we're trying to bring across. This isn't something, intuition is not something that is reserved for the highest and most gifted people.
Special, elite.
Special,
right,
yeah.
Right.
This isn't a category above everybody else. This is something that is in all of us. Mm-hmm. It is innate. It is born to us. And I think throughout time and throughout life, for me specifically, those are gifts that are buried.
Well, and I have to say, I think there's a lot of comparison. Well, I don't receive information like, I don't have someone talk to me from the other side, so I must not be intuitive. I don't sense an energy or intuition
or see dead people.
Right. Yeah. See, or any of that,
right,
like Lisa does or Tammy does.
Yeah.
But we don't realize that we have our own, we have our own way of sensing or knowing our own intuition. And we just have to get good at knowing and trusting, developing that for ourselves.
So I feel like it's like your own book.
It's your
right. Like
totally.
Mine is not the same as Tammy's, and it is certainly not the same as Catherine's. Part of it is because I have my own unique way to communicate, right,
Correct.
with the universe or my intuition, and perhaps part of it too is how practiced I am.
Right. And sometimes we hear messages. Sometimes, some people just like they hear it. It's actually coming in and they can hear almost like a voice. Other people see like pictures. Some people feel it in their bodies. Like, one time I had a woman that came in and I could feel, I felt this terrible pain in my neck until I realized that's my tell for someone who's had a stroke. And so, you start to understand
the symbolism,
that that your intuition is trying to tell you by listening to your body or listening to how it comes in for you, because not everyone gets it the same way.
I love that. So it's unique to you, just like your personality, just like your looks, just like gifts and talents that, you come into the world with. It's unique.
Right. And just because you don't get messages like John Edward or someone that, one of these people that are nationally known, just because you don't get information that way doesn't mean that you don't have it yourself. We all have it. We just have to take the time to get to know. It's like learning yourself. We have to learn who we are and how we sense it or feel it. And so.
Well, isn't it also like how you receive just information verbally? Like I'm listening to each of you and we're having a conversation among the three of us. I could say something and Catherine hears it one way and Lisa hears it another.
Perceiving it.
Right. And maybe needs clarification because what she heard is not what Catherine heard. And maybe Catherine heard what I really meant, but Lisa's like, well, I'm taking it a different way.
That happens a lot.
Right. Well, right.
Actually, it does.
But it does for everybody.
Yeah.
Even, speaking to your spouse or your children or a coworker or whatever, sometimes they just hear it differently than the way that you thought you said it.
Right.
But it's not really that different receiving information wherever it comes from, whether it is from somebody who is physically sitting with you having a conversation, or it is information from your spirit team or the universe or God or, your creator, whatever term you use to describe that the way you receive that is unique to everybody.
Right. And that's why it's so difficult for people to understand that everyone has intuition,
Right.
because it doesn't show up exactly like everyone else's. And so we're in this society where we compare ourselves to, so and so.
So much.
I'm not as good a cook as Lisa is.
right.
And man, Tammy, she's so organized and she's got whatever. And whatever it is, we're
Right.
constantly
Comparing.
because
Yeah.
that
What'd you say? Comparison is a thief of joy.
It's my theme. Well, and I feel like it's not tangible either.
No.
Like I can hear your voice, and anybody who is hearing in this room can hear your voice.
Mm-hmm.
So if you said to me, the sky is blue, everybody would hear that. But if my intuition says the sky's not blue today,
Mm-hmm.
the sky's green today, no one else hears that, but I know the sky is green because my intuition is giving me this message, right? And I know that's not a great example, but it's not something tangible. So if I said to you, oh, the sky's really green today, you might be like, well, why are you saying that? The sky is blue. The sky's always blue. Why would you tell me it's green? Well, because that's what my intuition says. It's not something tangible.
Well,
So I think that makes it hard for people to believe.
right.
Tammy's just a little loony today. She's off on Looney Tunes because the sky is always blue. I don't know where she said it's green, but it's not green. It's never green. Until you go outside and you see, oh, it's green. Until you have the experience. So I got the message, but until you have the experience that I just told you that
So validation is what
validates
you're
the
talking
information.
about.
Right, right.
Well, and I think a lot of times in our lives, we do have things that validate us, very clearly. We have an incident where, there was one time I was walking in a park and I thought, that little girl's going to hit me with her bike. And I'll be darned if she didn't. I mean, it was just like 5 minutes later, she comes, around the path, and out of nowhere, she hits me with her bike.
Oh, yikes.
And I was enraged at first. I was like, oh my God. And of course, I wasn't enraged with her, but in my side, I'm like, I was enraged because how could that have been true?
Yes.
And how could I know that? And,
Yes.
and my first, this was when I was
Yeah.
just starting to develop this, and I was
It's
like,
a little scary.
It's a little scary. It's a little
is.
off-putting. And
Right.
I was like, I don't know what to do with this information.
Right.
And so you're just like, but then as you allow that and be like, okay, so when I get these messages, or I get this understanding, now I'll be prepared for it.
Right.
So when I would have seen the little girl coming around the corner, and realizing she would.
You could have got out of her way.
Yes.
It's so interesting that you're saying that, because, oh my gosh, my experience often, not recently, but periodically, and recently, is that, I will get like, don't put that glass there, it's going to break. And as soon as I put that motherfucker down, like, I will be like, no, it's not, it'll be fine. And a split second later, I turn around and sure shit, right? It's coming off of the cabinet or the countertop or whatever. Those are the kind of things that happen to me all the damn time. And I'm like, you know what? In a moment, like one moment, it says, don't put that glass there. I put it there and it's broken. If I would just stop, and this was our first episode, if I would just stop and say, all right, I hear you, let's not put that glass there. This goes exactly back to our first episode.
does. What's our second?
Our first episode talking about intuition, because they're testing. It's testing me. It's saying, oh, you're going to listen this time? It's not a big deal. Like, you can put the glass there and it's going to break just the way your intuition is telling you, but go ahead, try it out.
And it really upsets us.
It makes me so mad.
That was my favorite glass. Why didn't I listen to
Right.
myself?
But also the fact that something's coming in that's from a higher level, I mean, it really kind of shakes the foundation of what we know.
Yes.
And it really kind of messes with our brains. And I know that my response at first was, I was upset because I was like, why am I getting this information?
Oh.
Yeah.
Why is this coming in? And I think a lot of times people get scared
Yes.
and they shut it down.
Yes.
And as soon
or
as
your logic comes in,
Yes.
right? Says no, it's perfectly fine. I've set a glass there before 100 times. It's not even off the edge, or nothing's gonna. And sure shit,
right there.
every fucking time.
So as soon as that fear comes up, though, we start maybe suppressing it, and then we
Yeah.
start pushing down that intuition. And I think sometimes we get a little frightened or
Yeah.
afraid of that.
Yeah.
But there's nothing to be afraid of. It's information. I kind of think of it as an information highway. As information's coming in, is it always 100% accurate? There's times it hasn't been, but I'll tell you, the more I listen to it and the more I thank it and say, gosh, thanks for that information, the more I'm given good information time and time again.
So what if it is information that like you don't even know what to do with this? Well, I don't even know why I received that. So I may be open to receiving messages from my spirit team or the universe, but I don't even know what to do with this. I don't know why you're telling me this. So I'm thinking about a time that we had lunch with an elderly uncle. It was a great uncle, actually. This is not somebody that I'm particularly close to. I see him at weddings and funerals generally, but some family members had put together a little lunch with him, and so I went, and we were in a crowded restaurant. I couldn't hear what he was saying. He was at one end of the table, I was at the other, so I couldn't hear. But at some point during this lunch, I got a very loud, very clear. It was like the whole room. The room did not go silent, but in my head, the whole room was silent, and it was filled with this one message, and it was, he has lung cancer. That was it. One sentence, and it was over. The noise of the restaurant came back in, and I went back to normal. And I was like, I don't know what to do with that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't.
Later in the conversation, he shared that he had recently been diagnosed with lung cancer. Mm. And as he said it, I just kind of nodded my head like, yeah, I know that. But I didn't, but I still don't know why I was given that information ahead of time. It wasn't like Lisa recently had this diagnosis and now was going to tell me, and I needed a warning, right? I needed to be prepared. This is not someone, again, he's not someone I'm close to. He's my family, and I love him because we're family, but I really don't know him. I didn't need to be prepared.
But it's the universe validating your intuition for you in a way that is not harmful.
Right.
It's not harmful to you. You didn't have to do anything.
Right.
But the message came in, and then it was validated.
Yeah.
And so therefore, it tells you your source is good.
Oh, okay.
So let me share an additional story, because that's an amazing story, right? And you really have to be listening and able to receive to get that information.
It was so loud. I mean, there was no way I could miss it.
Even if it didn't have ramifications directly for you, right? Like, I think to your point, that was a validation. Like, I'm giving you this information to you. I have a few examples, but I'll share one that was probably the most impactful. I don't know where we were going. My husband was driving. I was in the passenger seat, and my daughter was in the back seat, and we were on the highway. And we had the music playing in the car. We weren't really chatting or talking. And I was sitting in the passenger seat, and quietly, we were talking. All of a sudden, I had a vision flash into my head that in the vision, my husband got distracted by something that he saw on the road, and we crashed. We just crashed. We rear-ended someone. And it was like a snap. Like it was a vision. It happened, and I came back to where we were.
Like a clip out of a film?
Yeah, it was like literally taking a snagit out of a video. And I saw it. And like, I probably blinked my eyes 2 times between the moment that the video stopped in my head and when it actually started happening. My husband was
in real life.
In real life, we were driving. It was kind of stop and go traffic, and he was looking at a billboard that was unique and different. And in that moment, I was like, "Holy fuck! Like this is happening, right?"
Ooh.
And I interjected, and I was like, "They're braking. Like, you need to pull your attention back." And in that moment, it was probably the most like real, like the most real experience I had, that I was able to have a experience with my intuition and directly impact what was going to happen.
Mm.
And I still get choked up about it, because it was like, so like, he looked, I said, stop, like, pay attention. Thank you. Like, we would have been in an accident in a second, in a split
Literally
second.
in the next second.
Yes.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Right.
So they give this shit to me right before it happens. I'm
In the
like,
nick of
damn.
time.
Yeah. Thank God that time I listened and it wasn't a broken glass, right?
Right.
Well, and I think my previous husband kind of knew, that I received information. He tried very hard to ignore it. We were Catholic, in that lifestyle, very business, whatever. But, I think we got to the point with him where he just was like, there were things happened and he'd be like, I'll never question you again. And, when it comes to those kind of big things, because, you get information that comes in and then you say, okay, all right.
Yeah. You just have to take it.
Right.
Like,
and he's like, I won't question.
Yeah.
And so it's nice that you got that information and that you were able to do something with it, but you don't always have to do something with it for it to be helpful. I think a lot of times you have to just see that it's validation
receive
from the
it.
universe.
Just receive it, right?
And so the next time something comes in, then you can be like, I know this to be true and correct for me.
I love
Oh.
that. Yep. I love that.
So there doesn't always have to be an immediate reason.
Mm-mm.
Doesn't
It's
have to be a
development.
why. Right.
It's a development
little
of
practice.
that skill.
Yeah.
And I love that they do that for us. Are you listening? And then I always say, yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. And then there have been a few times they've caught me not looking, it's not a second, and I've fallen on my face, but,
Pay attention, bitch.
get back in the game. There have been a few times, but not often. And I would say in the last 5 years, they've been very, very present. And if I'm paying attention and I'm trusting that intuition, man, it's good.
So so thank you for that. And again, I think it's something that, are you going to mess it up? Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to mess it up. This isn't a light switch you turn on and you turn off. It's not. It's like, oh, well, let's dip in and give this a try. And oh, shit, you broke the glass. Yeah, you weren't listening. All right, fair enough. Oh, shit, you broke the again? Yeah, again. I wasn't listening again. Right? So it's a practice,
Right.
Honestly.
And you don't practice
Well,
with
sometimes
other
we
people.
get careless too, though, right? I mean, we're humans. Sometimes we just get a little
Caught
bit
up.
lazy or
Yeah.
complacent or careless, right? And yeah, I heard that, but I'm in a hurry,
Right.
so I'll put that glass there,
Right.
right?
Right.
And the universe says, hey,
Okay,
pay attention.
right,
Right here's another chance. Pay
Right.
attention.
right.
But we don't go to friends and we don't go to other people. We don't have to go and wave our freak flag to
Oh,
everyone.
right.
We can just trust our own intuition. And not everybody has to, it doesn't have to be, it's part of our everyday life, but it doesn't have to be everybody else's life.
Knowledge.
They don't
You
have
don't have to explain.
No.
You can
no.
just know things and not explain. Just like you can decline an invitation without an explanation.
Right. Right. And that's really important because I think a lot of people feel like that if they embrace their intuition, then they have to wave their freak flag. And, it's not really a freak flag. It's really who you are.
It's a
and
human flag.
It's really,
But it's
an
unique.
innate.
It's different than what traditional society accepts.
It is not. It is not societally accepted.
Yeah.
But it does. But if you can own it and you work with it, then gosh, you can develop it into so much more.
Yeah. So I'm gonna flip a card, just to shift this conversation a little bit differently. My husband and I recently had a conversation. It's an ongoing conversation, and it recently came up. So I consider myself intuitive. It's a working practice, right? Sometimes the glass breaks. Sometimes I save us from an accident. It's a work in progress. But I've always considered myself what's referred to as empathic. I can feel people's feelings. I can, it resonates deeply with me, probably more deep than most people, right? Like I can come into a room and I can feel the energy and I can sense, things about people that are not necessarily overtly communicated or, displayed. And, I have a sense about that where, I'm kind of proud of that, right? And I wear that as something that's important to who I am. So empathic. And it also is right now, I think, kind of very trendy to say, yep, I'm highly sensitive, I'm empathic, I have these special skills, that everybody else doesn't have. Again, I think that's kind of BS because everybody has that, and it's a matter of development. However, here's where this goes a little screwy for me. So, because of this quote unquote empathic skill that I have, when my husband walks into the room randomly, I can very often sense like, oh, something's not right. It might be, how loudly he closed the door. It might be the footsteps that he's taking. It might be, how does he greet me when he walks in the room? It might be like, does he come into the room directly with me, or does he go someplace else first, right? There are these indicators to me that something doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel right. It's not normal. Something's wrong. So in those situations, and it might oftentimes, honestly, it's like a weekend morning. Mm-hmm. And, he'll wake up and things just aren't right. He doesn't do the same things or the noises aren't the same. And I'm like, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Okay. And then he'll do a few more things. And I'm like, well, that's not right. Like I don't have exact descriptions to be able to say, well, you're doing this instead of that, but I have a sense, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's something wrong. Are you angry about something? No, I'm not angry about something. And then unfortunately for me, I'm like, sometimes
picker.
I do continue to pick. I'm like, well, goddamn, I know something's wrong. You did this differently. This happened. Like, our interaction was a little off. Like, what's going on? And he'll get really angry in some situations where he's like, you know what? Nothing was wrong, but you keep asking me over and over, and now I'm annoyed. Mm. And then I'm like, my job's done.
Nice job, Lisa.
Right. However, sometimes it'll happen to say he didn't really even realize something was actually wrong until he went back and investigated on his own and says, actually, you know what? I am frustrated, or I am sad, or I am angry, or something's going on. It may or may not have anything to do with me.
Right. Preoccupied.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So it actually does allow him the space to be able to say, I noticed something. And after he gets mad at me about it, then he'll go back and be like, actually, she's not wrong. However, there are some times where he's like, listen, there might be something going on with me, but I'm not ready to talk about it with you. And I realized in that moment, because it would start arguments sometimes. And I know I'm not the only one that this happens to, right? You're like, oh, something's off. What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? Fucking nothing. Like, get away. Nothing's wrong. And I realized that it might not necessarily be an empathic skill, or it might not be an empathic skill that is in a positive way. It might be an overdeveloped skill. And it might be that I've overdeveloped a skill of checking the energy, mm-hmm. of, oh, that sound felt weird, or he doesn't usually do that, because it might actually be a response to this environment doesn't feel safe to me right now. Am I in a safe environment? Do I need to do something differently because it feels unsafe? These XYZ underlying reasons or underlying things are happening, and it's putting me on high alert. Mm-hmm. And it might, in fact, be a trauma response, right? Like, I need to make sure that everything is fine and feeling good and moving smoothly. And if it's not, something's wrong. I don't know what's wrong, but something is, and I have to figure it out. It might be a trauma response. So is it empathy or empathic skills? Is it a trauma response?
I think a lot of people have trauma responses that they don't even realize. I mean, I know, even for myself, as someone who came from a home with trauma, and coaching so many people who have come in and had to work through trauma responses. I don't know why I'm so angry all the time with this. I don't know. And these trauma responses come up because the energy in the room feels different. And we are always looking to see, what do we need
Where's
to fix?
the next danger?
Right.
Yeah.
What's happening to me next? And we're constantly in that loop of, or do I need to please someone today? How do I make this better? And,
How do I diffuse this?
right, because I don't want to be in it. Right. And so is it empathy, or is it just a trauma response?
I got to make sure I'm okay after this.
Right.
Like, you're giving me all the signs.
Right.
You're not saying it directly, right? Which I suppose corresponds with empathic.
Right. You're picking up on this energy. But is this the same energy that I felt in a previous time where I have been in a position that was not good? And even though you're not in a position that's of danger now, those feelings,
Those reactions,
those triggers, they're still coming up, and you're just like, I'm feeling this, and I need to diffuse this. I need to know what's going on. And he's just trying to figure out what he's going to do with his sadness, or what he's going to do with whatever he's working through himself,
or whether he even realized it or not. Because in most situations, he's like, actually, I didn't even know.
Right. You're sensing something. And so, we're looking to make sure, and a lot of times we're looking to make sure that the other shoe doesn't fall.
Right.
Right. We're robbing ourselves of joy right now because we're so convinced.
Looking for the danger all the time.
I got to find the
Instead
net.
of enjoying
Right.
the peace that we have right now.
Right.
We're looking for the danger so we can be prepared
Right.
and
right.
avoid it.
And do what we can to diffuse the situation so that we don't have to have an uncomfortable moment again, because we've had them and they didn't really work out so well for us.
I'm a diffuser. I absolutely am a diffuser, and it makes my husband crazy. So we were on our honeymoon. We went to Ireland, and we had such a lovely trip. There really were only 2 people on our whole 10 days that were not really welcoming and warm and inviting. And this one man in particular, he had had way too much to drink, and he wanted to pick a fight with Americans. It was clear. I mean, he was blaming us for the water problem in Michigan, like in Flint. You're poisoning babies. I don't even live there. Like, we're not. Look, this is not. I have no control over that. Right.
Right.
So it was from that to how Native Americans were like robbed of their things were stolen and all, like,
Which is true.
Right? I'm not saying it's not true, but that's
Right.
not my fault. And he was absolutely wanting to blame me and my husband. Well, my husband is very much like, country is important to him, and he feels very loyal, and that just sent him right into outer space. And so I know this about my husband, and I know this is a huge trigger, and now this is not safe. So I need to diffuse the situation. So then I start talking, right? And I'm trying to change the subject. I'm trying to deflect. I'm trying to, here's the shiny object over here. And this guy is not having any of my tricks at all. He wants blood. Right? You people should be doing this, and why aren't you that? And and Josh is like, I can see it. It is, his top is about to explode. And all I can think is, I'm going to have to get my husband out of an Irish prison for, beating the shit out of this guy, right? Like, this is going to end in a bar fight. My husband is not a fighter, but this is going to end in a bar fight.
This is not going to be good.
No. So we called our ride and went outside to wait to get picked up. Well, wouldn't you know, this guy has to come out and have a cigarette right after we go outside. So now I'm really like, I got to do something. I have to find
Did you flash him your boobs?
I didn't. But that was
that would have been great.
That was close on the list, but I think that would have made my husband more upset.
I mean, on your honeymoon, it probably wasn't the best option.
Probably not.
But...
No, so I did not go there. So I'm trying to find some other common ground, something else to talk about. Not politics, not, the bad water in Flint. So eventually I found he's an artist. And so we were talking about painting, and I was frantically looking through my, my phone, my pictures on my phone to try to find some watercolors I had done. And meanwhile, Josh, now he's mad at me because why are you talking to this asshole?
Yeah.
Right. Stop talking to him. You just keep making it worse. And I said to him, but later I said, I was not trying to make it worse. I was trying to make it stop.
Right.
Well, then stop talking to him. That wasn't going to work. In my opinion, in my experience, that was not going to work. He was going to keep on. There was no ignoring this man. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to give you some space and change the subject so you can go over here and cool off. But still engage him in a way that was not confrontational.
Yeah, friendly fire type of thing.
Right,
yeah.
right. But again, I'm not that much different than most people. Growing up in an environment where there was a lot of chaos, a lot of toxicity, a lot of things that the
Didn't
rug is
feel
pulled
unsafe.
out all of the time. I knew this was not a safe environment, right? And it didn't have to be because I can see my husband's, blood pressure rising, but anybody could tell that this was not a good situation. But I know how to function in that.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Which is that's not a gift that I'm, a skill set that I'm really bragging about or proud of. I think it's sad actually that I know how to diffuse a situation that could get volatile with one more word.
But you were able to read the energy in that situation.
Right, but I don't think it's because I'm empathic. I
No.
think it's because I
There's
grew
a
up in
trauma
trauma.
response.
Right.
It's a trauma response.
Right.
And so you know how to handle
It's
that.
making me really uncomfortable. I have to figure out how to manage this. I
Yes.
don't want it to escalate anymore.
But I think there's a lot of people that are like the duck on the water. Everything looks fine, but the feet underneath the water are just going a mile a minute. And
Lift your
it's-
tail, fella girl.
That's right. Keep it going. Keep it going. Because,
That's it.
Yeah, because stuff is stirring around you, and you're trying to figure it out. I mean, I remember
As a diffuser, that's what it looks like, right?
I remember as a young woman, I was nice looking, but I would walk in a room and people would think I was conceited because I didn't have a lot to talk about. I didn't say anything because my whole intention when I walked in a room was to observe and to see what is the energy in this room and who do I need to steer clear of.
Oh my goodness.
And so empathic at that time, no. That was just survival.
Yes.
Yeah.
I need to stay away from
Yes.
I need to stay away from that type of energy there because it could harm me.
And
I
it's
used to-
almost intuitive. Like it's not even something that you
No.
do like you decide
Consciously.
to do,
Right.
right? It's something that you just do innately. Like, all right, so let's scan the situation. That feels okay. This I'm not so sure about. This, however, I'm staying the fuck away from that.
That
right?
doesn't feel good.
Right.
And so but that is a response to our trauma. I mean, it's innate only because we've lived it.
Yeah.
Not everybody has that. Not everybody has these skill sets. However, once you have them, I always have to look at it. Am I operating from a trigger?
Yes.
Or is it a true response?
Right.
Am I truly reading the energy clear? And
That.
a lot of times when I'm doing shamanic work, I have to really look at people because, they're throwing up. I love people that come to me and they're like, help me with my energy. And then they throw up this big shield. Don't look at me. It's the energetic shield of don't look at my stuff.
That might be me. No, don't talk any further.
I think our first session
I'm not
we were there.
mentioning any
Right.
names, Lisa.
But they throw this huge shield up and they don't really look at me. And so but so you have to really
Well,
get.
it's hard to be vulnerable like
It
that.
is.
Oh my God, it's
Yeah.
hard to let people see you. And so, there is a big difference between a response and our true energy. And so that's where we're getting into empath versus, a
Trauma.
Yeah.
And so, and neither are bad. If someone comes in and they want a session and they want healing, that's fine. But then let's call it trauma.
Right.
And let's not call it,
Right.
And maybe that's why it seems very trendy to use that term empathic.
What's nicer?
It does
It
sound
is
a lot
nicer
softer, and you feel more special,
trauma
right?
survivor.
Like,
Yeah.
listen,
Yeah.
I spent my whole life trying to figure out and read and
I've
read
been training
energy.
for this shit my whole life.
Right. Because I didn't know what the hell
Put that
was gonna,
shield down because I'm going to read.
I knew something was wrong. Somebody was angry. I didn't know why, but I needed to make sure that I was not in the line of fire.
Right. I learned to smile.
Right.
I learned to be quiet. I learned to
Be kind,
be an observer.
extra helping, like all of the shit. Like, oh, that didn't work. Let's try this. Right.
Yeah.
And unfortunately now, like if I lay this all out and I look at it through under a microscope, what happens now, which I have to like figure out and evaluate further, is I do it in a sort of aggressive way. Well, what do you mean there's nothing wrong? I know there's something wrong because of
Now
this.
you're lying to me.
Right. Because of this I saw, and this you did, and this how you handled it. Like, I know there's something wrong. What is it?
So when you just said that, that made me feel like I was the one under the microscope.
Well,
Literally,
that's
every
what I do.
movement I'm
very
making.
aggressively.
Yeah.
Because I'm like,
now I got to put some shields up, and now I'm going to be on the attack.
right. Exactly. And that is, in
That's
fact, what
what
happens. It doesn't turn out well, but I understand why I do it, right? Because throughout my childhood, you couldn't say, well, what the fuck's wrong with you?
No.
Right? Like that would like World War III. You dodged and you figured out how to soften and all these things. But now I'm in a relationship with a partner. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck all
I'm not
that.
doing that.
Fuck all that. Something's wrong. I know it's wrong. These are the reasons why I know it's wrong. So if you got a problem, we're gonna figure it out. Like let's put it on the table and figure it out, and we can move forward from there. And he's like, whoa. I didn't even. Okay, I might have a problem, but I didn't really even recognize what my actual problem was. So back the fuck up.
Yeah.
Right. So
Now I got a problem. You gave me a problem.
That.
Now I got a problem.
Right.
And our Sunday's ruined.
and then 4 hours later, he's like, actually, I did have a problem, but I just wasn't. It wasn't there yet.
Right.
So
yeah.
So in order for me to make that an effective or productive thing, like, I'm going to sense those things no matter what. Like that's
Always.
part of who I am. Okay. Whether or not it's trauma or it's empathic, I'm not sure, but I'm going to sense them. And then I have to put a blockade and say, you know what, this might be a trigger response, right? I might be responding because I'm triggered now. Something's going wrong, and perhaps I can manage it in a different way. Like, I've noticed a couple of things. I don't necessarily know what's going on. It might be me. It might be you. I'm going to give this a little space, right? If there's something to talk about, or we have to, figure something out, and you want to talk about it, let me know.
I just heard a really great phrase. I watched a show last night, and I love this phrase. How can I help? I've noticed there's a change in the energy. You may not be aware of it, but I've noticed it. How can I help?
I love that.
And I really, I was watching last night with Steve, and I said, I really love that line, because it doesn't put you on the defense. It doesn't it doesn't create any animosity. How can I help?
Right.
And I'm sensing this, and I'm not going to question it. And I think sometimes we push that because we're questioning, didn't I sense that? Didn't I? I need validation here. I need validation. I need validation here that I'm right.
I'm the poster child for that.
So I need you to tell me that. Right.
But instead of having to have that validation, just say, I'm sensing, because that doesn't have anything. I'm sensing.
Right.
How can I help? And if he says, well, I don't know, I don't feel like there's anything for you to help with, then allowing him that time until he's ready to be vulnerable, because being vulnerable is such a gift that people give us. So when they are willing to be vulnerable, we sometimes have to give them time to move through their triggers too.
Right.
But
it's not one way.
It isn't.
Right.
But I think before you can be vulnerable with somebody else, you have to be vulnerable with yourself.
Absolutely.
It's not easy to I'm agitated. I don't want to deal with it. I'm agitated, right? Maybe you don't even get to the point where you realize you're even agitated. There's a current there, and maybe you just are aggressively going through your day, right? But you're not ready to be honest with yourself about what is it that's got me all kind of jumbled up today.
So you're right, though. We have to do our own work in order. We can only be as vulnerable as we're willing to be
with ourselves.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And we can't ask for something more from someone else that we haven't been able to do ourselves.
Right.
And so many times people are just, surface level.
Yes.
Everything's fine. Everything's
It's
fine.
easy to be
and,
there.
And that's fine. Okay. But those aren't my people because
Right.
I'm too deep water to
Right.
be okay with surface level.
Start scratching the surface.
Yeah.
Pick at it.
And I
Lisa's
think
a
that's where
digger.
Keep going.
I think that's where you are, Lisa. You're
She's
a deep
digger.
diver. You're a deep diver, and you're like, Scott, you're coming with me.
I know.
Yeah.
Listen.
And he might not always be ready.
Or he's like, I wasn't going to do that
Right.
today.
I was just floating on the surface. I'm like, look, asshole.
You got some shit in that deep water.
He's like,
We're gonna find
I'm
it.
an asshole now?
Right?
Actually, yes. Because you slammed the door too hard and I noticed it.
Right.
Poor Scott.
I know,
Right.
sometimes. Not all the time,
Not
but
all the
sometimes.
time. I get it.
A friend of mine, she would I've known her. Hi,
Poor
Caroline.
Scott.
Poor Scott.
I'll give you poor Scott.
We were friends
Oh
first.
boy. Oh boy. Hold on a minute. We might need to pause.
Okay, hello,
Hold on.
Caroline.
I've known her for more than 20 years, and when I was younger, she'd say, "How are you?" "I'm fine. I'm fine." Because I was at that place where if I tell myself I'm fine, then I'm fine, right? I was absolutely not fine, and she was the digger, right? Are you really fine? You don't seem fine. And then I would start, burst into tears. No, I'm not fine at all. And but
It's armor.
that was exactly it.
It's
If I go
armor.
through my life telling myself I'm fine, then I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. I'm fine. Everyone's fine. I'm fine. And she was like, "No, you're not. And I see you. You're
I
not
see
fine.
you.
That's it.
That's it. That is so important because
You don't see yourself, but I see you, and you are not fine."
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Like the vision of going through a checkout line or, working with a clerk at a grocery store or talking to somebody in customer service. How are you today? I'm great. I'm fine. Thanks for asking. How are you?
Because
Fine.
it's polite.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have the level of safety with you to share what my true emotions are. And maybe I don't have the level of safety within myself to know what
That.
those true emotions are. Right.
Or I do know, and this is not the place for me to let them out.
right.
Not only are you not the person for me to let them out to, but this is not the place for me to let them out.
It's a safety thing.
Well, I grew up in the South, and so
Bless your heart.
bless your heart. Well, but it was
not nice, Lisa. I know what that means. That was not nice.
That can be nice. I meant it in a
can
nice
be.
way.
Not usually.
Not really.
Oh.
But you could have a flesh wound. I mean, you could be hemorrhaging, and my mom would be like, pull it together, get it together,
Right.
put your makeup on, get your earrings on.
Yeah.
We're going out, and it
Meanwhile, you're holding your colon back inside.
was. You've got this oozing, part of,
Yes.
a wound that's open, and you're just told to pull it together. And I
Yeah.
think so many of us have
Oh.
learned to pull it together that we don't even know. We've not looked at anything that we've pushed down for so long. We're not even aware of what
Yes.
is down there until someone actually sees us.
I don't know that that's a Southern thing. Like, honestly,
Yeah, I don't think it
I
is
have lived
either.
most of my life like that. Like,
Yeah.
well, what are you going to do about it? Yeah, you're wounded and your, heart is lying on the ground in front of you. Well, put that bitch back in and carry on, because what else are you going to do?
Right.
Right?
But
We
that
called
was
that happy family face.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
That sounds so toxic.
It is. It really was. Mom and Dad just had this big giant fight in the car on the way to Grandma's.
Yeah.
And now we have to stop crying and pretend like everything's fine.
Mhm.
And everyone in the car pretends like everything's fine
Right.
because we have to go to Grandma's and we can't let Grandma
And
know
everything's
that Mom
fine.
and Dad was fighting.
It's fine.
Right?
It's
We'd walk
fine.
into church that way.
Yes, that too. Yes.
You're just like, this
Oh,
is so
yes.
not right. But that is true. That's
Yes.
we've
It's fine.
lived it.
It's fine. Everything's
so
fine.
Why would
It'll
we,
be fine.
Why would we have any other response?
Right.
There would be no other. There's no other conditioning. That's a condition.
So that's where the confusion comes in, right? So I can't feel what I'm feeling, so I'm
'Cause you're
fine.
numb.
Right, but because I'm not allowed to feel it, because if I feel it, it's going to be on my face and people are going to see it, and I'm not allowed to do that because Grandma will know, and we can't let Grandma know, and so I'm just going to shut that off.
And then how
until
many
I
other
can't
things?
feel it. Until I literally cannot feel. I don't even know that I have a feeling, much less what I'm feeling.
Right. But then imagine growing up and now you can sense everything around you and you've read about, people being empathic and you're like, oh my God, I'm that.
That's me.
That's me. That's who
Right.
I am.
But it's like a sword.
Yeah.
It's a reminder to you.
God.
It's a reminder.
Sorry.
That was Lisa looking like she's stabbing somebody, not
Yeah,
like
because
that was not,
because it isn't necessarily a gift in that way. It was developed in a way that like fuck, like I gotta keep my ass out of this trouble. So I gotta know what's going
That's
on
it.
all the time.
without anybody saying anything.
I have to be invisible
'Cause they're not
and
gonna-
feel it all so I can get out of the way.
They're
when
not
shit
going to
starts
tell me
flying.
what's going on,
Right.
but motherfucker, I am not going to get in the way of this bullshit. So I got to know. I got to read all of this so that I can make sure that I'm in a safe
It
place.
doesn't stick to me.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Whatever that
Or
looks
I don't
like.
get caught up in it. Or yeah.
And when I say safe, let me just express that it does not mean necessarily that it was a physically safe or unsafe environment. It just means that from my perspective, in that moment, something was not going right.
Mhm.
And I did not want to be a part of it, right? It didn't mean that there was physical abuse or don't make those connections.
If two people in your house are fighting, whether it's your siblings or your
I'm
parents
out.
or whomever,
Right. I don't
want any part of that.
That's
so,
right.
So now I'm hyper aware
Right.
that there's the mood has changed.
Correct. I just
So-
wanted to make the clarification
Right.
because when I say safe versus unsafe, that can have
Oh, that
connotation
means
to it.
Well, sure, but that means
It
it's
does.
not just about physical safety, right? It isn't. So
There's
learning,
a sense of being safe.
Correct.
right,
Right.
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 I'm still not sure that I'm clear about the difference between being empathic and just being highly sensitive because of trauma. And I don't know if there is a clarity.
Perhaps it's an overdeveloped skill, and
Right.
perhaps it's how you apply it.
Right. Well, and if you're doing your work and your trauma responses
Triggers,
and
yeah.
those triggers, I think then we can say, hey, that's clearly
Yeah,
that
you're
comes
over
from
that
this.
line.
Yeah.
That comes from this. This comes from that. I can tell you when there's a loud noise or I'm startled, I know it's a trauma response
Yes, right.
from assault in college. I know that, and so. Then, if I hear a loud noise or whatever, it can put me back in that space. And I have to remind myself, hey, that's your trigger. It's okay. You're safe. So when I'm reading the room and there's someone that reminds me of that time or that energy, I'm not really empathic. I'm really in survival mode.
Right.
And there's where, what in your life, what is being empathic and sensing other people, and what is your own?
Right.
It's hard, and we're all
It is
connected.
hard, right?
We're
Yes,
all connected.
It's fluid.
When
Yeah.
I was single and I would meet friends out for dinner or, listen to live music or what have you, I would walk in by myself and I would stand at the door. Not only because I'm trying to find the people that I'm meeting, that was almost secondary. First, I'm scanning the crowd to find the creeper because there's always one.
Mm.
There's always one. And it would be, and I would look around the room and it would be the one who made eye contact and didn't let it go.
Mm.
You're the one I have to watch out for. And as soon as I identified who that was, I could go over, find my friends, and that would be fine. And it didn't occur to me until you just said that about it was a trigger that brought you back to an unsafe place. I don't know that I ever had an actual event like what you briefly referenced, but I've been stalked before. You're the one I have to watch out for.
You made me feel unsafe.
Yes.
Right.
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 Mhm.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of people that can relate to that, and even men that can relate
Agree.
to that. Well, with their families and with things. And so I think when we're looking at someone being empathic versus a trauma response, we just have to kind of breathe into that space, and we have to, one, know ourselves, know our triggers, know our traumas, but two, we have to realize that maybe some of the empathic sensing is more trauma.
It's a
related.
continuum or a spectrum.
We've been able to hone that
Yes.
because of what we've known.
Right.
And it goes back to intuition. Sometimes it really can help us make good choices in settings
And stay safe.
and stay safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I think we just really barely scratched the surface.
Like usual.
Yeah.
It's okay.
But it was a good talk.
It was a great
it's
talk,
important.
but it's
Yeah.
it's given me a lot to digest and think about.
Can't disagree. With that,
right.
we are going to close it up.
Right.
Wrap it.
Yep. Thank you again, Catherine, for
Absolutely.
spending some time and talking a bit more about, those skills that are innate to us, that are gifts that we have, and perhaps what that might look like on a continuum, right? Is it in a healthy place, or is it as a response or a reaction from something that might not be as pure or healthy as it could be?
Right. Yes. Excellent.
Thank you.
And making the decision that we're not going to be numb anymore.
Yes.
That we are going to go
Oh.
ahead and feel those feelings and allow them and know that we're safe in whatever way we are now. Because, those are old tapes. They're old stories.
They are, aren't they?
And so we can choose.
I don't even
new
have a
ones.
cassette tape player anymore.
I know, but they're still there, baby.
That shit away.
I know. So
the
we just,
reel to
but
reel
we're-
player. 8-track.
I think now though that we can just start throwing those out, shoveling them aside, and now we can just say, oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's this. Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
that. And it empowers us now to not have to walk in the room and look for the creeper. It empowers us not to have to say to our spouse, I know something's wrong, because we know it is, but now we can just observe it and say, how can I help?
Observing.
Observing.
It's the answer for a lot of things, isn't it?
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
All right,
right.
then.
All right.
We have to close this bitch up because
Yeah.
I can't take any more of this vulnerable stuff right now. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks, Catherine.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you also to Mind Garden Media for producing our podcast. This Riding Side Saddle would not be a thing without Todd at Mind Garden Media.
In every level. Thank you.
Yes, very much. Thank you also to our listeners and our followers and people who are supportive and sharing and liking and commenting, whether it's on social media or to one of us directly. It just touches my heart every time someone says, I listened to your podcast.
Fills me straight up.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Yes, for sure.
All right.
Yeah. If you'd like to contact us, you can find us generally on Facebook. We're Riding Side Saddle Podcast. On Facebook, you can listen to us there, but also on YouTube and Spotify and some other places too. So
I love that you handle this part every time because I get so wrapped up and then I forget. So thank you.
Well, it's important
It is.
to me to say
It's
to
important
be
to me too.
thankful.
I just
I'm
am
not
happy to
implying that
rely
it's
on
not.
you.
That's you know what? Lisa is our social media manager. I don't do any of that. I just remember to say it. That's it.
Thank you.
You guys are a great team.
That's it. There we go.
There you
So
go.
until next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.